Hi guys, how are you guys doing? It's been a while. It's me, Arjun. I'm still alive. Yes, this podcast is very much still alive. Firstly, let me address the elephant in the room. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry for not putting up a podcast in a very long time. It's gonna be almost 2 years. I think the last episode was in 2022 November. So technically, it's been like a year and a half, really. But I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to say that I haven't been the most disciplined individual, and I obviously apologize for that. But at the same time, I do want to say that I have started to get my stuff back together, and so part of that process is getting this podcast back up, and I had a great opportunity to do that with this amazing individual that we're gonna have a conversation with in a bit. And actually, something that I didn't get to share with you guys. Actually, Sharkbait Entertainment's Masala Chai was rated 17th in self improvement in Singapore. I found out this information ironically when I was just on some website, and it just showed up on one of the top rankings, and I was quite surprised. I was very shocked. I did not know this, but it just goes to show that in a country with such a culture with podcasts, I see a lot of people listening to podcasts like on their way to work in the morning, when they're just settling down at home. It's become a part of their lives, and to think that my podcast has been making some sort of a difference is really contentful, if that makes sense. I feel content, and I'm glad that people are responding to this the way they are. Without further ado, let's begin into the third episode of Masala Chai, Season 2. Let's go. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, bro. It's a pleasure
Yeah,
to be here. This is a long
thank
time
you.
coming.
Yeah, I actually, for a bit, I stopped making these podcasts. I
Right.
mainly because I couldn't find any guests, and the other because I'm just very undisciplined in that way. But but I'm starting to change that,
No, no,
and
that's
uh,
great.
and yeah, and so guys, today we have Arjun Gupta. He's a influencer, content creator, tennis player as well, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
play a lot of tennis. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
do play
We
tennis.
attended the same high school. We attended British School Jakarta,
Love that
and
school. Shout out
yeah,
BSJ.
shout out BSJ. It seems a lot of my friends, at least the connections that we have, at least in this podcast, has only been people from BSJ.
Right, right,
So we can hopefully see how that goes.
right.
But yeah, I'm glad we're here. And actually, this happened quite spontaneously, right?
It did, it did. I
We
mean, we were just
Yeah,
talking, like, we text back and forth, and I just jokingly said we got to talk about. I think we were discussing how every road you take in life has a purpose, and everything in
yeah,
life happens for a reason. So I jokingly texted you like we got to discuss this on a podcast sometime, and then you're just like, why don't I bring the podcast back? So yeah,
yeah,
it was pretty spontaneous, but I mean, I'm happy. I'm happy that we're here now.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a good opportunity as well,
It is.
because I think you have one of those. You're very easy to talk to in the sense that
Oh, thanks.
something you have on your mind, right, is easy to clearly get that out, you know,
Right, right.
and you'll see a lot of times the thing is nowadays, especially because when you're in this generation that we're in, a
Yes.
lot of people at times they tend to judge based on
Mm.
your age. This idea of ageism.
Yeah. Oh my
Have you
God.
have you have
Age
you
shame.
felt that? Yeah, so I mean, you and I were Indians, so we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
we can relate to
We
that,
can.
in our culture, at least, that concept of, oh, you're only this old, you shouldn't be talking about this, or how are you so wise for your age,
Oh
you
my
know, that
God,
that
bro.
that,
I,
that
I hear
concept.
that all the time.
Yeah,
It's yeah. I can relate to what you're saying.
yeah, and so I mean that's why it's quite rare to see someone who's well articulated at that point in time. So that's why I thought, this is a good opportunity, because
Thanks, brother.
people watch and listen to podcasts because they can, gain experiences and learn from other people's
Yeah.
experiences, and how better to do that than to listen to people who can, articulate themselves really well.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's what we're pretty much doing today. Again, Masala Chai, the idea of the podcast is to be it's a very natural, very localized
Yeah.
conversation, really.
I love it.
um yeah, do you actually have a podcast of your own?
So I don't have a podcast yet, but I'm thinking of launching one very soon. So
Mm,
as you know, I do create content on my YouTube channel. So I post long
yeah.
form videos and shorts. I'm definitely thinking of launching like an actual podcast. So I've done a few videos on my channel where I just have conversations with like friends and interesting people.
Yeah.
Launching a podcast of my own is definitely something in the works, and I love listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
Jay Shetty's podcast, Lewis
Yeah.
Howes,
Yeah. Jay
Chris
Shetty.
Williamson's Modern Wisdom podcast. These are just some of my favorites. So even I don't know if you've listened to the Ranveer Show by Beer Biceps.
No, I haven't.
It's yeah, I mean
I'll have a look.
it's mostly popular in India though. I mean his audience is.
Ah, probably. I
So
see.
I know you're in Singapore, so, but that's also one of my favorite podcasts. So I love podcasting. I love listening to podcasts. So that's definitely something that I'm gonna be bringing about very very soon.
That's good. That's good. Because I see a lot of the stuff that you upload and
Yeah,
the kind of things that you do is very important because I feel like that kind of motivational sense, we don't get that nowadays.
thank you.
We're so blindsided by social
Yeah,
media and all that kind of nonsense that we see on
right.
a day-to-day basis. It's nice to get a reminder once in a while. So seeing your content always makes me like, yes, get back to work, Adrian.
No, Adrian, I'm humbled to hear that, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
that's my intention, man. It's not to tell people what to do and what not to do. It's just to set the example and to remind people that they have greatness inside of them, because I feel like we
Mm.
all have greatness inside of us. But the problem is we've been conditioned all of our lives to believe that we're just meant to, go to school, get a job, work a 9 to 5, pay bills, and die. And
Yeah.
I fundamentally believe that that is not the case. We all have gifts inside of us. We all have a special purpose that's been placed in our heart. But
Mm.
because we live in a world where there's so much noise, Adrian, I feel like we're just not able to listen to our intuition, because I feel like your intuition is God talking to you,
Mm.
right? And that's why I'm a huge proponent of things like meditation, breath work, just sitting in solitude, maybe going on walks in nature without any music on. You just have to be still. Find those moments of stillness in your day. And that's when you can sort of listen to your intuition and get these downloads embedded into your subconscious mind.
Yeah, so this is something that I used to talk about with my really good friend Kevin, who was actually on. He was also in the same school with us. He was my best friend. I mean, he still is.
He sounds
But
familiar. I think it sounds like a familiar name. I may or may not know him.
yeah, maybe he was on the podcast before in the
Okay.
previous many episodes before. And one of the things that we usually talk about is, at least the thing that he always says, is about having like you give yourself time to just sit down and just think, right? Just sit down and just
Yeah.
settle down with your thoughts, because essentially, like I said, we're polluting ourselves with so much information. In this day and age, at least in the digital age, we're doing so much
Right.
work that it's quite hard to
Right.
contextualize things, to put things into perspective. It's quite hard to do that.
Right.
To gain that sense of composure, of closure,
Right.
right? You need to, like you mentioned, you put it really well, very eloquently said. Just closing your eyes and just taking a breather once in a while. That sense of meditation is something that I truly am a believer in.
Right.
Actually, funnily enough, for one of my projects in university I
Right.
did this semester, we had to write this thing called an op-ed, which is like
Okay.
just like, yeah, you did write like an opinion article, essentially, right? An opinion piece.
Like
And so what
usually
I did,
ones you find in newspapers, like that kind of an article.
yes, kind of, yeah. So these kind of articles are essentially like an opinionated article, right?
Right.
So you write about something that you are strongly believing in. It tends to be biased, but at the same time, once you finish reading them,
Right.
you have like a sense of, oh, okay, wait, that's an interesting perspective, right? You'll have that thought. And so that's what you want. So what I wrote
Right.
about was this concept of, how in hospitals,
Hmm.
we talk about patients, and we talk about how they're feeling. We're looking at like physical recovery, right? Looking at
Yeah.
the medical tech. But something that a lot of people neglect, not just in hospitals, but generally in life, is the mental aspects of
Yeah.
recovery. Yeah.
That's true.
And so I was thinking like, well, I mean, just think about it. If you're, let's say, you or someone you know is getting an operation or a surgery, right? While they're inside, they have an anesthesia in their system. They're asleep. They don't know what's going on. But think about the family members outside, their friends who are in agony. They're worried, and so what can they do? What can they resonate to in those moments of stress, of concern? And so that's when I thought about this idea of, oh, why don't they have like a room where we can meditate, where you can pray, right? It's not restricted to a religion,
Right.
but
Of
it's
course.
restricted to the conformity of having hope,
Hope.
because that idea of hope. Yeah, it's very interesting, Arjun. I think you should have a look at this. I'll send you these
Can
articles
you
that I
just
was
send me?
doing
Yeah,
for
yeah,
research.
I'd love
Yeah, yeah.
to read, bro.
So it's
Yeah,
very interesting, the concept.
yeah.
Actually, apparently, there's a correlation between the amount of hope you have
Okay.
and the physical recovery as well. Yeah.
Wow, dude,
So they
that's
did this test.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So they did this test with these CRC, which is colorectal cancer, one of the most common types of cancers,
Yeah, it's
right?
heartbreaking, man.
It really is. And I mean, there's nothing much that can be said on it itself. But in terms of recovery, these two individuals, they did like a research on these people who were having colorectal cancer over 12 months, and they found out that by giving them a sense of hope, you actually give them a higher chance of recovery, or a speedier recovery, compared to those who didn't have that.
Right,
And it's such an interesting concept that I was looking at, because it really goes
right.
forward into what you're mentioning about meditating, keeping yourself calm, uh, giving yourself a sense of aspiration or purpose. It's very, very nice.
Right. Bro, that's a
Yeah.
wonderful point you bring up. I think this thing about hope leading to increased rates of survival amongst these cancer
Mm.
patients or people who are having particular illnesses or other comorbidities. I think it's a wonderful point you bring up because I feel like there's this narrative in our society that science and spirituality cannot exist. And I love what
Ah.
you said about
Yeah.
how it doesn't have to be confined to a religion because
Mm.
I think religion, unfortunately, I think religions were originally meant to unite us. But now, unfortunately, religion has become such a divisive topic. So I think it's more of like a common belief in just a higher power. It's a
Yeah.
belief in the universe. It's a belief in that there is something above that's protecting you. It could be
Mm.
the stars, it could be destiny, it could be whatever. But it is that, something beyond us. It's a supernatural energy that is protecting us. And I think we are energy at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So I think healing can be brought about through these things, and I feel it's time modern science starts appreciating these things. Obviously, medicine does have its place,
Mm.
Western medicine, especially, has saved many lives. So I'm not bashing Western medicine for a second here. If I needed a surgery, my friend, the first thing I'll be doing is calling the best Western doctor I can find.
Yeah,
Right?
probably.
Right. But
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
point is, we should also take advantage of these ancient practices which have been around
Mm.
for centuries. Praying and all these things have been around for centuries, way before the advent of medicines. So I think hope is a strategy. And adding on to what you said about these cancer patients, there was also a study on Holocaust survivors. So
Mm.
in the Holocaust, there was this study which found that the soldiers or people who were just a part of the Holocaust in general were more likely to survive if they believed they would make it out alive and thrive afterwards. And do you know Dr. Gabor Mate? He's a Holocaust survivor.
I think I've probably seen an
You
interview or
must have
two.
come across him.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. So he talks a lot about this concept. He was just an infant actually when he survived the Holocaust, and he was separated from his parents for the first 6 to 11 months or so of his life. So he was talking about how that had a pretty traumatic effect on him as a child, and it took him a lot of years to heal from that.
Mm.
So I found that pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is an interesting, you know, concept to talk about, because we have a lot of these people with different experiences, different
Exactly.
the way they perceive things. I mean, at
Right.
the end of the day, right? I feel like, I mean, the reason why stuff like these podcasts work is
Yes.
because, the reasons why books exist, the reason why any form of literacy exists, is
Mm.
because we can only learn from others. We can learn from their perspectives. The reason why we read a lot of biographies and stories of people is because we want to learn from their mistakes
Right.
and try and replicate their successes, right?
Oh
That's what we're
yes,
trying to do.
exactly,
Yeah,
bro. It's not. It
yeah.
shouldn't be the other way around. You shouldn't be replicating the failures and
Yes.
going the opposite way in terms of the successes. Because it's like when you're reading a book, bro, you don't have to make those mistakes yourself. Like, let's say a
Mm.
guy lives for 80 years, he learns a lot of lessons, and he decides to share it all with you. Bro, you're literally getting free 80 years of experience that you can download into your head in seven
Yeah.
days. Just 7 days.
Yeah, for sure.
Or, however long you take to read a book. I say 7 days because I usually aim to read a book a week, but I mean, there's no hurry to read books. It's more important to understand what the book is trying to say, and it's not just about finishing books for the sake of finishing books, which now I
I
see a lot of
completely
people
agree.
doing that, unfortunately.
Yeah, I completely agree on this, and this might divert the topic a bit, but
No, no, it's
I it brings me to this concept of of the education system as a whole, right?
right.
Um, I feel like especially now that we're in university and I'm looking at the way that we're learning, it's not even learning.
It's not
You know what I
learning,
mean?
bro. It's ratta
Yeah,
marroing. Have you seen Three
it's
Idiots?
yeah. I have
I love that
mugging and
movie.
all that kind of.
They're trying to make everyone chaturs.
Yeah, they are, and it completely goes against, at least for me personally, right? I am someone who is, if I want to do something or learn something, I actually want to understand it, right? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? I
exactly.
will I will question the existence, but we're in a point of time in society where that is not like, it's not expected for you to do that. It's like, bro, it's just the way it is, right? Don't question it.
Oh my
It's
god,
just do it and just don't question it, and that kind of bothers me a bit.
it
And
does.
it's the same thing with books. When I read books, I try to I do the same thing as you. I try to read a book a week. I haven't been
Right.
successful with that, but if I do take a book, I will finish it within a week.
That's
Because
wonderful.
yeah, and it's also not about how fast you read a book. It's
Right.
kind of like when you're in a gym, it doesn't matter
Hmm.
how
It's not about how much
much
you
you
lift.
bench. Yeah, it's about how, the form, how much how well you're doing it, how often, how many reps. That's the kind of uh
Consistency.
consistency is key. And it's the same with mental consistency. You're looking at
Right.
reading books and all. It's very similar. It's about understanding what you're learning, or else what's the point, right? It's just like people talking to you. Just come in one ear and go the other, right? There's no purpose in that.
Exactly.
And that's definitely what I picked up on reading. Yeah.
No, no, that's great, man. I think it's funny you mentioned the thing about going to the gym. I was just in the gym this morning, and my cousin's at the same uni as me, so I bumped into him there, and he was also saying, Arjun, form and consistency is way more important than the amount of weight you're lifting. He keeps saying that to me.
Mm.
That's his only advice for me in the gym, because he
Yeah.
knows that like my technique and stuff is fine, but he's like, just don't do ego lifting. So I think the same is true
Yes.
with books. I've
Yeah.
seen
Yeah. Yeah.
way too many people, my friend, go into the gym, do ego lifting, and then they get really bad injuries, which puts them out for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, sometimes even a couple of years. So I'm just like, what's the point of that, man? Just for 1 second of ego, what's the point of ruining your body?
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to the idea of why you're doing it, right? Most
Exactly.
people, I mean, most guys our age, if they're in a gym, is for two reasons. One, they're actually wanting to work on themselves, or
Right.
two, they just went through a really bad breakup. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A
And
friend was
so
just telling me he had a breakup just recently, and that's why he's doubling down on gym time.
yeah, yeah. I mean, good. I mean, the thing is, you need motivation, right?
You need
And that
motivation.
kind of motivation works most of the time. But it goes back to why you're doing it, right?
Right, right.
And it has to be for yourself.
It has to be for
One thing that I've learned in recent, I mean, from February onwards, I had a huge change of mindset. I went through this experience, and it's the first time I went through it. I don't want to delve too much into the specificity on it, but essentially, it kind of altered the way I looked at myself, and I wanted to take a bit of control over my life, right?
right.
Because I realized that it was a bit, what is the word I'm looking for? It
Disempowered.
was a bit, yes, yeah, that's precisely it. And so I realized, this is an opportunity for me to gain back the sense of control. And so, physically as well and mentally as well, I started going into a more calmer place. I started to realize, just find myself in a sense. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, right.
yeah, cue in a montage of a guy, walking in the mountains, swimming and all that. It's about exploring yourself, and yeah, I found that at the end of the day, you're doing these things for yourself
Right.
because who are you to impress? Who are you impressing? You know, if not yourself, you should be satisfied with yourself, be
Yeah.
composed and calm. And it brings me back to the original topic that we were talking about when we decided to make the podcast, right?
Right.
About the paths that we've been taken,
Right.
the kind of journeys that we take.
Right.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, if you think about it, right, you start somewhere off and you end at the same place. Everyone is born and everyone dies, right?
Yeah.
It's about
Your
what
whole
happens
life.
in middle. Yeah, it's about what happens in the middle that really decides is the deciding factor of who you are and what is your
Exactly.
legacy. And so
Exactly.
I truly believe that it's in your hands.
Right.
You get to decide. Yeah.
I love that. So, Adrian, do you know Prince EA,
Prince EA.
the YouTuber?
Oh yes, 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 yes.
Yeah,
He makes these motivational
he's
videos and
great.
all,
Yeah,
right?
like he makes a lot of spoken word stuff.
Yeah,
So I really love
yeah,
it. And he integrates some rap into that as well. So I'm a huge fan of it.
yeah,
But in one of his videos, he said something which is exactly what you're saying. He was saying, so we're born, that's B. We
mm,
die, that's D. And he said, life is the C, and C is choice. Life is the sum
ah,
of the choices we make. That's what I grasped from that video. Because Adrian, I feel like in life we have choices all the time. Every single day we have a choice. Take something as basic as going to the gym. You get to decide whether you move your body today or you don't. You get to decide whether you put some healthy food in your body or you put junk. You
mm,
decide whether you hang out with toxic people or you hang out with people that uplift you and who inspire you to reach for more and who inspire you to dream bigger. So you get to make choices in life, and that's why I feel like we have to take that accountability, that self accountability, and make choices which will benefit us. Because I believe, Adrian's self respect is the most important thing, more than anything else. Because what's the
yeah,
point of the whole world respecting you if you can't look yourself in the mirror and be like, man, I'm proud of myself?
yeah,
That should be
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
goal.
for sure,
You should
completely.
be able to take your shirt off, look yourself in the mirror, and be like, man, I am proud of who I am. That's
Mm.
all.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes to self satisfaction. I know a lot of my
Exactly.
friends. I know a lot of people who are happy the way they are,
Exactly.
right? And there's nothing wrong with that. I
There's
mean,
nothing
they
wrong
might
with
be, yeah, they might be a bit obese, they might be very skinny, but it doesn't matter at the end of the day if you are content with who you are. But I mean, it's a bit more unfortunate when it's a situation where you're not happy with yourself, right?
that. Exactly.
But you don't have the motivation or you don't have the means to push yourself to make a change. And when that's the situation that I find people facing, I try to help them, try my best to get them to get there. But at the end of the day, one thing I found out that Arjun is that
Yep.
if they don't find the need to do it themselves,
They won't do it.
no matter what you do, they won't do it.
Nahi hoga.
Yeah. Yes, correct, Nayoga. It's that's the way it is. I mean, if they don't feel the need to do it themselves, it's not gonna happen, and that's just the way it is. And I've learned this the hard way through. I mean, a lot of times with the relationships I've had with friends, um, it all goes down to self discipline. That need of wanting to do it. You need to make that change. You need to make that move, and
Right.
yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah, man, it all comes down to self-discipline, my friend. In a lot of my videos, I'm sure you would have seen, I talk about
Yeah.
how in order to make any change in your life or to achieve any goal, the desire has to come from within because that's how it's going to last. So I'll give you an example of my own weight loss journey. So I used to be a very fat kid till I was about 12. I was very overweight. But then what happened is I lost a tennis match and I was fed up. I was like, something has got to change. And I was like, I got to lose weight because I'm too slow on the tennis court.
Hmm.
So then I had this motivation to just lose weight. I was like, I'll do whatever it takes. I saw people like Novak Djokovic, Virat Kohli, LeBron James,
Hmm.
etc. And I was like, These guys literally give everything to be the best at their sport. And I was like, if they can do it, so can I. So I had that motivation coming from within. My dad didn't say anything, my mom didn't say anything. It was me. It was all coming from within. And the thing is, I played sports all my life, so it was my diet that was the issue. And it was
Hmm.
difficult, man, giving up all the junk and processed food which I grew up on, like, chocolates, pizzas, ice creams, burgers, etc. It was tough, giving up on all that. But bro, it was necessary. And I had that goal in mind, that higher purpose to become a better tennis player. And that's what kept me going.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to what I was saying before about the
Yeah,
motivation, right? If you
exactly.
know what you want, if you know the end goal, you will do whatever it takes to get there, and that's what's important. The trick is in the middle. Sorry, the tricky situation is when you start to lose that sense of motivation in the middle, which I found myself to have. But I just realized that it goes back to that concept of how badly do you really
How
want it?
bad do you want it?
Yeah,
Like, you've got to
yeah,
ask yourself that, bro. If you don't want it bad enough, you won't get it, because guess what? There is somebody who wants it more than you.
yeah,
There's always
exactly.
somebody who wants it more than you, so you gotta want it, bro. In this book that I was reading, I'm not remembering which book it was. I'll let you know which book it was if
Sure,
I
sure.
remember it. But there was basically this quote which said, "If you want something as badly as you want oxygen, you're gonna get it one way or the other, because you're
Ah,
gonna be so committed to work so hard to get that."
wow, that's a good quote.
It gave
That's
me
good.
it gave me the chills, bro, when I read that.
Yeah,
Gave me the
that is really good. Wow. Yeah. So it's not a matter of
Yeah.
want. It's a matter of need.
Yeah, if you need
You
it,
need it.
you gotta need
Yeah.
it, bro. It's gotta be a
Yeah.
necessity. It's not, dude, it's not a choice. Like, you gotta need this thing. It's like, let's see. Look, I'm a tennis fan, as you know. So
Yeah.
I'll just use a tennis analogy here. Novak Djokovic is the best tennis player of all time in my view, but he's known since he was like a 5-year-old boy that he wants to be the number one tennis player in the world and win the most Grand Slams and win Wimbledon.
Yeah.
But he's known that since he was 5, and he was like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to win this. It doesn't matter what challenges I face, I'm gonna win this. I need it.
Yeah.
Even Virat Kohli, just look at him. Sachin Tendulkar, look at any of the greats in any field.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's not just limited to athletes, by the way. It can be in literally any field. Even, Will Smith. He's not from an acting family, for example, but he had that thing that he has to become a premier Hollywood actor. And, the rest is history. But it's that thing of needing it. You gotta need it.
Yeah.
You don't have a plan B. None of these people had a plan B. Okay, because I feel a plan B is a distraction from plan A. Because if you have a plan B, Adrian, sometimes what happens is in your mind, it's just like, if it doesn't work out, who cares? I have something to fall back on.
Ah.
But if all you
Yeah.
have is a plan A, bro, you're doing two things. You're running to the place you want to be, and you're running away from what you don't want. And that is a powerful combo. You're running towards the
Wow.
life you want, and you're running away from a life you don't want.
That's yeah. Wow. Okay. Oh, I needed a little think on that one. That was a you. Wow, man. That's a good way you put it,
Thank you, brother.
because it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It really is. If you don't give yourself an option
Hmm.
for an alternative, you're telling yourself, I'm gonna get there no matter what,
Yes.
because there's nothing else I can do.
There's nothing else I can do. This is it.
Yeah, and that's insane. I mean, it goes back to a lot, like you said, a lot of the greats. The reason why they're great
Yeah.
is because that's what they hone in on. That's what they want,
That's what they
and
did.
they know that. Yeah,
They did
and they
that.
did that. They did what they say. The issue is nowadays we're having a lot of people who say one thing and do another,
Oh
right?
my God.
So actions speak
Fake
a lot
influencers.
louder than words. Yeah, and I feel like I'm also in one of those perspectives where I used to be someone who used to say something and I wouldn't necessarily do it. I would have tried, but then I would have been like, oh, okay, I
Yeah.
tried. Yeah, it didn't work out. I just give up. But I realize now, like having a bit of a, you know, speaking with a bit of, well, what is that word called? I can't think of it in English.
Which
But
word?
in hindsight,
Hindsight,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
Speaking, in hindsight, I can tell you for a fact that um, having motivation to do something, and even trying and failing, it's not wrong, but it doesn't
Trying
mean
and
that you
failing
should
is not
stop.
wrong.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you should stop,
Never.
right? Because there is no success without failure,
No.
right? And it goes back to me, and I love this character. I love Batman. Okay, I'm a huge fan
Oh
of
man,
Batman.
same, same. I
Yeah,
love Batman.
and so there's this in the film Batman Begins, right?
Right.
Christopher Nolan, he great director by the way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
He there's a line in the film where Alfred, no, the baby Bruce Wayne, when he was a kid, falls in the cave, and then he starts crying, and then Alfred goes up to him and he's like, "Why are you crying? What's up?" He's like, "Why do we fall?" Right?
So we
And
can
so he says,
rise. Is
"So
that
we
what
can
he?
learn to pick ourselves back up." That's what he says.
Right,
So
right.
we can learn to pick ourselves back up, right? Because if you don't fall down, you're not gonna get up. You're gonna stay falling, right? That's the concept that I really enjoyed, and I
It's
completely agree with
wonderful,
it.
man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you have to learn how to walk before you can run, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
Oh my,
baby steps.
dude, that's a wonderful concept you actually touch because I feel like we're trying to jump directly to mastery because what happens is, Adrian, on social media we see experts all the time. So we're just like, these people are so intelligent, these people are so good at this, they're so good at that. But what people don't see is that they mastered the basics first before becoming masters at whatever
Ah,
they are masters at. It's like in kung fu, you have belts. You start at white
mm,
belt, then you go to yellow belt, then green belt, then blue belt, so on and so forth until you finally get to black belt. And even within black belt you have 8 dans. That's a whole separate conversation, but my point is you got to master the basics first, and don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20 or anything like that. See,
yeah.
I'll give you an example of my content creation journey. So I started my content creation journey seriously not too long ago. Like I was posting on and off before, but I've started posting consistently for the last 6 7 months.
Mm,
Now it can be very easy for me to compare myself to a Jay Shetty or a Beer Biceps or any of these great guys. But then what I did is I looked at their first videos. Bro, their first videos were not perfect by any stretch of the imagination.
mm,
They also started from somewhere and they just
yeah,
upskilled as time went on. And obviously, with practice, you just get better and better. So, bro, you don't compare yourself to others. You have to compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And if you're better than the person you were yesterday, I feel like that's more than enough. I think it's that small progress that you're making, and that's why I'm a huge fan of tracking miniature progress. You should ask
yeah,
yourself at the beginning of every day, what is one action I can take to bring me closer to the person I want to be? Just one thing, one small action, because that's very doable. As human beings, we don't like to have such big ambitious targets, but if it's just one thing, you can do it, man.
yeah,
you know
for sure.
the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's what
Yeah, for real.
Lao
Yeah, yeah,
Tzu
yeah.
said. These are words to live by.
For sure. And I mean, going back to what you mentioned about
Yeah.
doing comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. My mom always says this thing to me.
Right.
She always says this. She says, "You are your own enemy," is what she says.
Oh my
And
god. Your mom's right.
it's she's right, but every time she tells me, it just I feel very uncomfortable. I'm like, why are you saying this? I don't like that. Why are you saying that? But again, speaking in hindsight, again, I get to the point where I agree with that 120%, and that is exactly why I didn't like it every time she said it, because it was completely true. The
Well,
person you wake up in the morning to, right? You wake up, the first thing you look at when you brush your teeth or whatever you're doing is yourself.
I
You
hope
look at your
people brush
reflection.
guys, brush your teeth, please. I hope that's what we do.
Okay. I mean, if you learn anything from this podcast, at least go and
Brush your
brush your
teeth,
teeth.
people.
Minimum.
Don't scroll
Yeah.
Insta reels first thing in the morning, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Please, please.
Uh, yes, that's a very bad habit that a lot of my we get. But for real, yes. When you see yourself in the mirror, you look at your own competition. You say to yourself, "This is who I want to beat." Right? Don't compare yourself to someone else, right? Because you are yourself. You're an individual. You're different, and I think there's a great thing that you mentioned, Arjun, just now about
Yeah,
comparing yourself, because that, yeah, who else can you compare yourself to? No one else
right,
but yourself, right? And you know yourself the best.
exactly.
So it's that sense of putting yourself in that
Right.
place, and really testing yourself and saying, you know what, yeah, at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said before, about
Mm.
making a change. Unless you want to change yourself, it's
It's
not
not
going to
gonna
happen.
happen.
Yeah.
Even if it does, it
And
won't be
so,
long term, man. Because external motivation, it's like a, what do you call it? Like a candle. It just
mm,
burns very quickly.
true. True. It is. Yeah. I mean, you're only after a certain point will you feel the need to do something because other people are saying it, right?
Exactly.
And then you'll find excuses, find ways to, find yourself not to do it. But if it comes from within, if you find that need to go and achieve something, that
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that will get you to where you want to be.
100%,
And
brother.
you are doing a great job of that. I'll tell you that. Doing a good job
Thank you,
so
bro.
far.
I mean, I'm just trying
Yeah.
to do my best. I'm trying to set the example. I want people to know this, man. I genuinely do practice what I preach, and if I'm not talking about something, it's because I don't currently practice it in my own life.
Mm.
But whatever I say on my channel, in my videos, on my stories, wherever you see me on social media, I practice every single thing that I preach because I'll be a hypocrite if I don't
Yeah.
practice what I preach. So I'm just trying to set the example, and I just want to serve, Guys, I genuinely care about you and I want what's best for you. Yes, I might, come across as harsh sometimes, but it's
Mm.
just because I want you guys to succeed and I want you all to be happy.
Yeah.
I
No,
want
completely
what's
agree.
best for you
That's
guys. So I want to serve. I just want to serve, man. Like, that's my only goal. It's to serve and to make a positive impact on people's lives. When someone comes up to me and is like, Arjun, you've really had a positive impact on my life. Like, that that's the real juice of life, my friend. That is what
mm.
brings me the most joy. That's why I get out of bed and just love doing what I do. Sometimes it even brings tears to my eyes. So it's like there's no better feeling than that, man, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I know what you mean. I mean, they say happiness comes in many forms.
It
You
does.
say it doesn't necessarily have to be in a monetary way, right?
No, it doesn't.
Uh, but for sure, I mean, let's go back to thousands of years ago, right, where we
Right.
were just
Hunter
cavemen,
gatherers.
making each other happy just through the bare existence of each other, right? I mean,
Exactly.
helping each other, aiding each other. That is the basic of humanity. That I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes we have lost that sense of humanity. Don't
Right.
you agree?
No, I
Uh,
do, man,
it's
completely.
it's such a shame,
It's a
such a
shame.
shame that
It is.
we've grown to be the most evolved being, but at the same time,
We're the most lonely. There's like a loneliness
yeah,
epidemic, bro, that's happening in our
we
culture.
are. We're extremely lonely.
And this is with technology. That's the sad part. Technology is supposed to make us connected. No, that's the whole selling point of mobile phones, of social media apps. That's the selling point. That's the marketing tactic which these companies use. And guess what, bro? Like, even though they're supposed to connect us, we're more distant than ever.
Mm. Yeah.
I'll tell you, in my college, I just was sitting at a cafe. I was getting some work done, and I saw two people who were having a conversation through text. They were sitting like, maybe 5-10 feet across from each other, and they're
Okay.
still having a conversation with each other through their mobile phones because they don't know how to converse.
That this is a big issue nowadays, by the way, because I feel like, especially in the
Facts.
workforce that we go into, not even in the workforce, even in school, I can just think of a lot of people that I've met who are just a bit younger than me. I'm not that old. I'm only like 22 this year,
Dude, age is a state of
but
mind, Adrian. Don't worry.
yeah, it is. It is. But then again, it brings you into about how much you've been exposed to, right? Because it's all about
Right.
experience. I'd rather use experience as a term rather than age, because you can be very young
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
have a lot of exposure to stuff that
Facts.
someone who's 30 might
Facts.
not have, right? So that's why that's the first thing I started off with when I mentioned Arjun about ageism, right? I think it's completely wrong to have a
It
mindset
is.
built into our judicial system and our justice system in general, the way we think. But going back to my point, having a sense of connectivity is just it's just not there at all, right? You're so disconnected. um I've lost my train of thought over there for a second, but
Don't worry, don't
you
worry.
know, yeah, that entire concept of just not knowing what to do, not knowing what to say because you're just used to on your phone just texting. You can't reciprocate that information out in the open. It's just very, very just unfortunate. We can't talk anymore. And actually, I noticed this personally as well. Sometimes it's easier to say things through text, but at the same time, it just doesn't have the same effect, right? Because you can say one thing over text, but the person who's receiving it could just misinterpret that by like so many miles.
That's
What
so
what you said is like not even what you meant, but somehow they managed to interpret it in a way that that was not intended. That causes a lot of miscommunication issues, and most of the time, 80% of the time, if you have issues, it's because of miscommunication. Um, and if only people just spoke right and just cleared the air, most problems would be fine.
exactly. Bro,
Yeah,
that's a wonderful point you bring up about communication. I think communication is a lost art. Thankfully, at my college, we do have communication courses where they're actually teaching you about like public speaking skills, and because I'm doing business, so I'm studying business management. So as you know, in business, people skills are very important, and
yeah,
I'm half Punjabi, so that's sort of built into our culture. It's just being a people's person and
yeah.
pleasing others. That's something which is taught to us from a very young age. So I think communication is a lost art which we have to rekindle in a way, because we're not
Hmm.
able to express ourselves, because as you said, through text a lot of things can get lost in translation. Someone means to say something, but it comes across as something else. If I'm saying something to you in person, or we're having this conversation now as we're doing virtually, you can understand what I'm trying to say, and you also get to see my facial expressions and body
Oh,
language.
for
Right?
sure,
And
for
the
sure.
same goes for you. I can see exactly what you're saying, and I can see your
Hmm.
body language.
Yeah.
So with that, you have an enhanced sense of understanding. The thing is, if you're just texting someone all the time, you don't get that at all. So I think human connection is important, man, and I think COVID has proven this to me. It was so hard
Hmm.
to not see my friends in person for 6+ months. It was very tough.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It can be. I
yeah,
mean, I agree. It's something that you don't have to be extroverted or introverted to have this feeling. I feel like it applies for most people because after a certain point, you just need that humane touch. I mean, think about people who have been stranded in islands or who have been put in prisons for a long, long time with basically no human connection. You actually start to lose your mind. It's an interesting concept. I
fam.
mean, I've read this book, The Martian, right? I
I
mean, it's
love that
fiction.
book, bro. I love it.
Yes, it's amazing. And Andy Weir, he writes in such a beautiful way that it's fiction, but it feels like he actually was stuck in Mars. It's like
Yeah,
he's
you
been stuck
feel
and he
it.
came back. And it's that concept of being lonely, of having no human connection, but really boiling down to the basic needs of humanity, right? And I think it's something that we're really missing out on because everything is digitized. We're all everything we need is just there. It's online for us. Any information. Back then, we used to ask all the old people, right? All the grandmothers and aunties in the village. They would know everything. What's going on? They would be gossiping, and
Oh
just have
my
to ask them what's
god.
going on, and they'd be like, "Oh yes, yes. Did you know in that street? Oh, did you know in that house?
Bhai,
Right?
this happens in India. Like, the aunties are still gossiping in India.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
happens
yeah, yeah.
every time.
You can't. But the thing is, you can't find that elsewhere. Is what I'm
No, no,
saying,
no.
and
You don't.
because everyone
Uh,
is
you
either
won't find.
so marginalized by the expectations of society now, or they're just fully digitized now. They just instead of speaking and telling you, they upload a status on Twitter. you know
Oh my god, bro! Like this stuff. Like, I'm sorry, but like it. I don't like cussing, but like it pisses me off,
Mm.
bro.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it
It
can get
really
quite
pisses me off, man.
unbearable.
It I just think, bro, see, I'm a social media creator myself, so I love social media platforms, but the catch is they got to be used in the right way.
uh
The key is
Not
use
only
the
right
right
way,
way.
also you have to keep a oh my god, what am I looking for? It's
Hmm.
You have to mediate the usage of social
Yes,
media.
exactly, exactly.
Just like anything in life, too much of something can kill you. Too much of oxygen will kill you. Too much of water will kill you. So
Too
why
much of
aren't
broccoli
we
will kill you.
applying? Yeah. So why aren't we putting this concept into
Ye-
our use of
Social media.
technology, especially social media? Definitely, it's a
Yeah,
polluting thing, right?
exactly.
Maybe you scroll 5 minutes over Instagram Reels, makes you laugh. Okay, get back to work. But then 5 minutes ends up being 50 minutes, and you don't realize, oh,
Yeah.
I've lost
It's
50 minutes of my
mindless,
time.
bro. It's the way people scroll on social media, man, is mindless. Like, I have a friend who basically he has an intention to just check his DM once, but then he ends up
Mm,
staying on the app for like half an hour. So it's that sort of
yeah.
mismatch, right? Between what you intend to do and what you actually do. So Jay Shetty has this brilliant thing which he talks about where he says like after an hour of focused work, for example, he'll give him 5 minutes to just play around on social media. So that's like do whatever you want, scroll as
That's
much
what I
as you
do.
want.
Yeah.
Yeah, even I do that. So I'm just like 5 minutes, just scroll as much as you want, go crazy, but then get back to work. So it's
Yes.
like that's the best way to do it. I think that's the most sustainable, and that way you can actually enjoy your social media use. You don't have to feel guilty because then you're not just logging onto the app every 2 minutes trying to check your phone. You're setting times for it. I think time blocking is an underrated tool.
Yeah, it actually
Blocking is
is. But
very
people are
underrated.
assuming it's a parental control or something. But actually,
Not at all, man.
okay, I haven't used it, but I have the sense of. I mean, I had an issue before, it's quite some time back, and it also goes into the change. And I told you about when I got a realization and all that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had a huge issue with social media. I mean, ironically, you'll see me online, but now,
No, no,
but
I love your content, bro.
it's yeah, thank you. But many times you'll see that it's not about how often you're online. It's about the control that you have. If I take out my
That
phone now, I have the control to put it down immediately, and I know
that
what
is
I'm doing. I'll
wonderful,
do it
man.
for a bit, and especially when doing work, it's about doing your work and then giving yourself that reward for a bit. Because unfortunately, we are in this generation where our attention span is so low. It's
It's
just
less
built
than like
into
20
us.
seconds, man. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous, and I feel kind of helpless about it because I can't really do much of it. It's ingrained into us, right? We grew up into this, so it's not much we can do in terms of attention span. You can't really fix it, but what you can do is mitigate that, is mediate it, and that's exactly what you mentioned. An hour of work and 5 minutes of phone usage. For me, it's 25 minutes of work and 5 minutes of usage, and the reason why that works for
That's
me is because
wonderful, yeah.
that 25 minutes I get to do the work very consistently, and I do it very well. Because after that, it just becomes like I just have to finish this. You tend to lose that control. At least personally for me. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I've been experiencing. I don't know about you. I mean, you said an hour is what you do usually,
Yeah,
right?
it's usually like an hour, sometimes 90 minutes, but it doesn't have to be that amount of time, Adrian, but it has to be like a work block followed by some time to check social media. So I'll allow
Yeah.
myself that sort of time. Or sometimes what I do is if I'm anyway recording a video, like if I'm recording a story or something, then after the story I'll give myself a couple of minutes to just check my DMs and all that other stuff.
Mm.
But I never use social media mindlessly. Like, every time I'm on the app, it's a conscious decision to go. I don't impulsively go. So I love what you're doing, man, about working for X amount of minutes, then taking time for social media. I think that's the way to use it sustainably, and that's the way for social media to be your servant and not your master. Because
Ah, wow.
as a
Very well
wise
said.
man once said, technology is a wonderful servant, but it's a terrible master. So we've got to keep
Mm.
technology our servant, because once you get into master territory, my friend, you're in a dangerous place.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think we're really nearing that place. And it's very funny if you
It's
look at
sad,
like
man.
movies like The Terminator and all that. it's fiction, but we're really getting close to that place. We're losing control, and this is exactly what you mentioned. Don't let it be your master. Make sure that you end up having that sense of control, and if you don't have that, you are in a very dangerous territory. And I firmly believe that, and I think most people, and I'm an advocate for this as well. I truly believe you should maintain control of technology use, but at the same time, it might be hypocritical at times because your life nowadays is so engraved into technology. A lot of things that you need to do is you can only do it with technology. You can't do it anywhere else, right? You want to contact someone. Oh, hit me up on my Instagram. I don't use WhatsApp much. Oh, hit me up on Telegram. You know what I mean?
Hit me up
It's
on TikTok.
that one. I don't know.
Okay, let's not
But
talk about
yeah,
TikTok, bro. I don't want the Chinese government to be watching this.
you don't want the CCP
No, no,
to
no.
be
We
tuning
don't
into
want
this.
that. Yeah, yeah. We have to be wary
Yeah,
of the CCP.
the
Yeah,
U.S. is doing something interesting with
yeah,
it right
exactly.
now. They
That
just
I
passed
was
the
just reading
motion.
about the bill
Yeah,
that they passed. President Biden has signed it, so it'll be interesting, bro. Because there are lots of TikTok influencers. So what the hell's gonna happen to them? I'm just
I don't know, and it's not just about influencers, right? A lot of businesses are relied on TikTok, and it's a Chinese company. They're asking them to basically un-Chinese themselves. You know what I mean? They're asking you to like get rid of your association with your own hometown, which I doubt it's gonna happen. And I it can get quite political, and I don't want to indulge into that, but in the sense that they really are not letting them slide with this, and it's quite interesting to see what's gonna happen because
for sure,
wow,
man.
a lot of the stuff that I mean, the U.S. economy is unfortunately
It's
relied on the influence
unfortunate,
of
man.
TikTok. Yeah, and so quite excited to see what's gonna happen there. Um, but yeah, I mean, wow, full circle. We came an entire way over this conversation here, um, and I think it's about time we came to a consensus, come to a conclusion about the concepts that we have mentioned today. And I think we should
Sure,
go
sure.
back to what we mentioned about having pathways in life,
Yes.
right? Um, I When you say this to me, I'm kind of religious, right? I mean, who I mean, a lot of people are nowadays. A lot of people aren't.
I'm also religious. I think we're both
Yeah,
pretty religious people. Though it's something
yeah, we are.
I don't really talk much about on social media,
Yes,
for the
true.
simple reason that I don't want to cause any ruckus or divide or any
Mm.
of that. But I am also like yourself, a religious person.
Yeah, so Arjun, the thing is between two religious people who are of different religions,
Yeah.
it to me it doesn't matter whether you believe in a god or even if you do
Right.
what god you believe in,
Right.
because as you mentioned, and I think you put it very eloquently well, it's about the uniform belief of a higher being
A
at
higher
the end of the
power.
day, a higher power. That's essentially it, like an ostensible. You want someone out there that has full authority over you, and in the sense of basically, you know how science can explain what, how, right? But they can't explain why, and that's kind of what religion tries to fill the gaps in there. And one of the things I believe, and I believe this truly is, things happen for a reason, right?
Everything in
Everything
life
happens for
happens for a
yeah.
reason, man.
And I thoroughly, I definitely believe that, and I also believe that we are put in a path, right? We're all given a path. It's about how you find yourself in that path at the end of the day. It's about how you bring yourself onto those experiences and the people that you meet, the relationships you make, the legacy you pass down. This is what I think, corresponds to a life in general. What do you think? What's your perspective on
Right.
that?
Oh man, that's a wonderful question, man. I pride myself on being an open-minded individual and changing my mind on
Mm,
things, and I've changed my mind on so many things over the years, like diet, health,
yeah.
spirituality. I've begun to embrace paradoxes in my life, such as the integration of science and spirituality. But One thing which I'll not change my mind on is that everything in life happens for a reason. I genuinely believe
Wonderful.
in that, bro.
Hmm.
Because, you know, it's like Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, but you can connect the dots looking backwards. And
Hmm.
that's a belief which I fundamentally believe in. So that's why think in terms of hindsight now. Okay, know that when you look back on this event a year later, you're going to understand that things had to happen exactly the way they happened. I think, as
Hmm.
we mentioned at the beginning, every road you take in life has a purpose. You know, even the people you meet in your life, you don't meet people by accident. Rumi said you meet people for a reason, a season, or a lifetime,
Hmm.
right? So you have to identify whether the person in your life is there for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and act accordingly. And also, I think sometimes things happen in your life to teach you a lesson, and it's on you to take the lesson. What I also feel is that if you don't learn the lesson, it'll just get like, you'll just keep suffering again and again and again. I'll give you an example, bro. Like, I'm sure all my bros can relate to this, and I'm generally saying this as a bro, from a bro to another bro, to all
Yeah.
the bros that are listening to
All the
this,
bros.
all the bros out there that are
Yeah.
listening to this conversation. I have also gone through rejections by girls, okay? I've
Yeah.
been ghosted. Girls have not refused to see me for who I am.
Hmm.
They've so not made fun of my imperfections, but they've not sort of embraced those parts of me.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change a thing. I'm so happy that all those rejections happened, because you know I wouldn't be at the place I am in life if these things happened the way I wanted them to happen. Earlier, I think we've discussed this over
Yeah, we
text.
did.
I had zero riz before, bro. Like, I couldn't talk to girls like at all. Even till last year, striking up a conversation with a girl was like a nightmare for me, but now it's the easiest thing ever. In fact,
Hmm.
today, I was so there's this book, it's called Same as Ever by Morgan Housel. It's a personal
Oh,
finance.
yes. It's good.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wonderful. I happen to have an extra copy of the book. It's brand new, so I was trying to sell it to people at my college. I was
Okay.
literally cold selling to guys and girls. Like,
Okay.
people just cold call or cold email. I was
Yeah.
literally just going up to random people and being like, hey, I'm selling this book. You want to buy it? And yeah, so, so my point is, dude, these things happen for a reason. I used to be terrified of public speaking. If you asked me to do an interview like this a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I would have been like, no, I can't do it, man. Like, it's
Hmm.
too scary. But
Yeah.
now, like, there's nothing I'd rather be doing than this. This is like my
Yeah. That's
favorite
great.
thing to do in the world. So, dude, everything in life happens for a reason. I think in life there are no regrets, only lessons. But you gotta take the lesson. It's on you to take the lesson. क्योंकि
Wonderful. Yeah.
so in Hindi there's this saying, my grandpa keeps telling me this. He's like, Arjun, जो भी life में होता है वो अच्छे के लिए ही होता है, which means whatever happens in life, it's for the best. And he said
Hmm.
that you may not understand it in the moment, but he says that after a few years, maybe a few months, or whatever the time horizon is, you will understand why it had to happen exactly the way it did, and you'll be thankful to God. So, as I said, with the
Hmm.
rejections with the girls, for example, I'm so thankful all these girls rejected me, man, or I'm so thankful that some of these girls ghosted me.
Yeah.
I'm
No, no,
so
no. I completely
thankful.
agree.
I'm so
Yeah.
thankful that it's happened, man. It's like God was protecting me from something that wasn't meant for me.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. The thing is, you'll never know until you know. You know what I mean? And there are certain things in life that I truly believe you will know, right,
Right?
when it happens. And that's the kind of stuff that, the way you mentioned, don't look at it in terms of, don't think about stuff in hindsight before. Think about it now, right? Put yourself in that position now. I completely agree with you, and I think that brings forward a really important point about the concept of, especially what your grandfather said. Seems to be a very wise man.
Oh, he is.
Definitely.
We gotta get
Yeah.
him on the podcast sometime.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
That would be
three
interesting, and I
person
and I
podcast.
yeah. Actually, yeah. I mean, even in these podcasts, this is why I like to do this, Arjun. This is exactly why,
Right.
because I think everyone, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be someone who has a lot of education or a lot of
Not
exposure
at
in life.
all.
Just the simplest person that you can find, anyone has so
Right.
much to offer, but they haven't been given a
Right.
platform to
Right.
do so. And that's essentially what I want to achieve with this podcast. And
That's
if
amazing.
I have to be honest, I think it's quite successful, and I'm looking forward to doing more of these,
Right.
and for sure I would love to have you come back another time and with another person as well. We could, I mean, the more the
Bro,
merrier,
oh
right?
my God, we
Yeah,
gotta do, dude. We gotta do a part two and a part three. You know, when I start my podcast, I'm
yeah,
definitely gonna have you on multiple times, dude. Because
without a doubt.
see, even though we've not had too many of these kind of conversations, bro, you're also someone who I can talk to so easily and about so many different topics. You know, we've covered
Mm,
so much ground today.
yeah, of course.
You're a very deep guy, bro. You're very open-minded. So, dude, I would love to have a lot more conversations with you. I really enjoyed this. I feel so full of energy. You know, when I have there's some people you hang out with, Adrian, who you just feel drained. You know, it's like they just
Ah,
subtly
yeah, yeah.
suck out the energy from you. It's like they're sucking your life energy away. At my college, there were a few of these kind of kids, so I just distanced myself from them completely
Mm.
because they were just ruining my mood, man. And you know, they were just like,
Ah, I
this
can
is,
understand. Yeah.
and they're like dream stealers also. Like when they would overhear me talking about my dreams, you know, they'd be like, that's not possible. You're
Mm.
unreasonable. Be realistic. So I just distance myself from them, dude. It might be impossible for them, but it's not impossible for me. But that being said, bro, when I have these kind of conversations, when I had this conversation with you today, I just feel so full of energy. I feel so much optimism. I just feel amazing, man. I know that there's still some amazing people in this world like yourself. So
Yeah.
keep being you, brother.
Thank you, man, for
Keep
sure.
doing the amazing work you're doing. I know the podcast is called Masala Chai. I'm
Yeah,
sadly not a masala chai
a
fan.
chai fan.
Yeah, I'm not really a caffeine in general. I've never been much of a
Okay.
caffeine person in general. I don't know for what reason. But as you guys saw earlier in the show, I was just sipping on a strawberry smoothie.
Oh, nice.
So just
Healthy.
all it was just some fruits, dry fruits, and some almond milk. That's
Mm.
about it. Tastes delicious, but yeah, I like that you're doing amazing work through the podcast nonetheless. And honestly, if I liked masala chai, I would definitely have been sipping on some during this
Yes, it's
conversation.
just, I mean, the way that the name came forward is just that the conversation is not like, it's not supposed to be forced, right? It's just, imagine you sitting down at like a local tea stall just talking with your friends. You sometimes you sit down with your friends, you have these kind of conversations that you'll not expect usually. So that's where I got this name from, and I'm a huge fan
Right.
of masala chai myself, and so that's why it was natural for me to name it this way. But yeah, and I mean, Arjun, thank you for for being here today.
You're most welcome, man.
I'm
It was
really
an
really
honor.
happy.
I really enjoyed it, bro. Like, thank you so much for having me.
Likewise.
I would love to do this again many more times. I know
For
we have
sure, for sure.
many more conversations in the works, and we have, dude. I know this. We're connecting like properly on camera, with cameras on, and we're being recorded. But we've definitely got to have some offline conversations as well.
For sure. Of course.
It's been a
Yeah,
while
yeah,
since
yeah.
I've been in Singapore, man. So
Hey,
I
just come
definitely
on down,
no, no.
then we
I'm
can
coming.
definitely have.
I'm coming. I gotta come to Singapore soon. I've also got some family in Singapore, so
Nice.
it's
Okay.
been a long time since I've been there. So definitely a trip to Singapore is long overdue from my side. So I'll be making that happen very very soon. And
Good.
bro, we got a lot of epic shit to do.
Yes, I love the way you put it.
Yeah.
I listen. My doors are always open. Hit me up whenever you're here. We'll
Anytime,
have
man.
fun.
And if
Yeah.
you're ever in Delhi or something, you also let me know.
Sure. Sure. We'll do, bro. We'll do.
Um, and yeah, I just one more thing I wanted to add. I will do my best to vote as well. In
Ah, yes, yes.
I'll do my
Go
best.
ahead. I mean, do your best. I do think the sense of voting, right? The thing with voting, people assume that, oh, my one vote is not going to make a difference, right? But it's completely incorrect. In the U.S., the vote for English against German as the national language was won by one vote, and in Punjab in 2008,
Right.
uh, the election was won by one vote.
Really?
So yeah, 2008. So I feel like all these things that people are having this misconception about voting is the one day people have power, you know, there's only a period of time where people, the actual people, have power is voting day. That's the one day you have a choice to make, and that is when you can do what you always wanted to do, which is, you know, have a sense of I made it, I made a decision, you know, I made a difference.
Right.
And it's very important. Whether or not you have good options is another thing. We
Yeah.
shouldn't delve into that, but
We won't be
yeah.
discussing who we're voting for. I think that's all a
Oh, of
personal
course not.
choice. But
Yeah,
it's just the act of voting. So as you said, it was won by a single vote. So that just shows the power of a vote. So I think
yeah,
if you can vote, why not? I mean,
yeah, of course.
it costs nothing, but honestly, it could shape the country for better or for worse. So I
It could.
think I
It could.
think, dude, just I think you just gotta do it. It's like just just do it, man. Um,
Yeah, for
there's
sure. And I completely agree with it. Yeah, you really have to. It really makes a difference.
it
If
does
you're
make a
watching this,
difference.
if you're watching this, you're of legal age.
If
If
you're of
there's
legal
a
age, guys, just
election in your country,
do
go
vote,
vote.
do vote. But the most
Yeah.
important thing Adrian and I want you to take away from this podcast is brush your teeth first thing in the morning and do not look at Insta Reels
Yes.
first thing in the morning. So
Yes.
those are
Try
the
not to do
most
this.
important things we want you to take away from this. I hope you took away some other insights and Adrian. Hopefully, people do share with us what they took away from this episode because I know
Of course.
it's going to be a very insightful one. I know people will find it useful. But
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I know I do get a lot of messages, and I think I
right,
told you this, but
okay.
this podcast, it was, I was quite shocked to see it, but it was 17th on the self
Oh
help
yeah,
in
you
Singapore.
told me
Yeah,
it's well
and
deserved, bro. Like very well deserved.
yeah, and so I was, thank you, but I was very shocked because, you know, it really just goes to show how people are taking,
They
you know, a
take this
lot
shit
of,
seriously, man.
they do, and the culture of listening to podcasts is becoming very prominent
It
now, especially
is.
in this day and age. And so, I mean, firstly, if you're listening this far, thank you so much for being here with me and Arjun Gupta today. We've had a blast talking,
We
having
did.
a normal conversation. This is not scripted as well. This is
Oh yeah, we didn't
completely
script it, man. Like
natural.
normally,
Yeah,
guys, I'm like a huge proponent of research and scripting. Not scripting, but preparation. But you know, with some people, and Adrian, we being one of them, he's so easy to talk to, and we can cover so much ground. I felt like we should just go with the flow today, and that's exactly what we did. So, we both
yeah,
hope that you like this and it added some value to your life. You know, I hope just the power of one, guys. If you just took away one positive thing from this interview, we're very happy.
yeah, for sure. I completely agree with you. Yes, exactly what Arjun said.
Right.
Just take one thing, guys.
Just
Just
take one thing.
one thing that you learn from this podcast that you can apply in your life, and that would make us very happy, the both of us. It would definitely, uh you know, an action speaks louder than words. So go ahead and make your life better by whatever you learned from today. And with that being said, thank you so much for joining us today after a
Thank you,
while,
guys.
after a long time, episode of podcast. And Arjun, I'm happy that you were the guy to bring it back into
Oh man, it
fruition.
is my pleasure. I
Yeah,
had a blast. I had a
yeah,
blast. Wonderful. Amazing,
that's great, man.
brother.
Wonderful
It's
indeed.
a joy talking to you as always.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, now I know, bro. We got to do a lot more of this going forward.
yeah, we definitely do, man. Yeah, and so without further ado, I think we say goodbye to our listeners. Thank you
Yep.
so much for joining us, guys. Take
Thank you.
care. As always, stay
Yeah.
safe.
Same.
Have a nice cup of masala chai. If not,
Yeah.
strawberry milk. What was, yeah,
Strawberry smoothie.
strawberry
Have a
smoothie.
strawberry
Yes,
smoothie, guys.
have a strawberry
Or have
smoothie,
masala chai.
and,
Your call.
or masala chai. Up to you.
Or just
I
water.
prefer masala chai,
Yeah.
or water. Yeah, I mean, water is important. I'm a water here. You gotta get hydrated.
Gotta
But
get
yeah,
hydrated, people. I mean,
yeah,
yeah. But go for masala chai. If you can, go for masala chai.
yes. And you guys know I made TikToks on how to make them, so go
Yeah,
watch that.
guys. By the way, do follow Adrian on TikTok. I've seen some of your TikToks on Instagram. You know, you
Hmm.
posted as reels. I think I've seen a few of those, so I like that. So guys, make sure to watch Adrian's stuff on TikTok.
Yeah, for sure. And your YouTube, everything will be linked in the description below.
All right, thank you
Make sure
so
to
much.
follow Arjun on Instagram. If you're watching this on
Thank you.
YouTube, go ahead and follow him and subscribe to him. If you're listening to this on Spotify, again, all that information will be on YouTube. So go ahead and do that.
Thank you so much.
And yeah. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. I have nothing else for me to say. I'm content with today. I'm happy with what we
Yeah,
discussed, and
likewise.
I can tell you the same. Yeah. And so, anyways, goodbye, guys. Stay safe. Peace
Stay
out.
safe, guys. Namaste.
Namaste.